We are in the Bronx. This is where I grew up at. I want to say about 25 years ago, when I started dancing. This is the area we used to throw jams right there. This is a unique structure, and we were able to sit in front of the window and call up to each other and make a communication. We had special codes, on calling each other. We call Law, Cello, Abadat, hello, Abadat, Cello, all that kind of stuff. We had our own codes and, and way of communicating here. So we was like, brother, sister, all the way up, all the way down, Our parties really didn't start till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and they go all night. Back then, the police really didn't come around here and have an issue with what we were doing because we weren't committing a crime. The thing about block parties, jams, and dancing, there was not a whole lot of physicality involved because everybody was coming together, so it was great.
All right, go ahead. Get me started?
Yes, go ahead. Don't laugh at me. Oh, hold up. Y'all better get home. This camera's hot.
You ready? Here we go.
It was fun growing up, especially when Mr. Wade started doing his commercials and doing the wave. We used to always run upstairs and sit there to watch, count how many times it came on TV, what time it came on, and then we would all come outside in the circle and do it.
He had a direction. He knew where he was going. He had the resources. And even when he got popular, he came back to the hood, you know what I mean? And he was like, yo, Kwan, what size are you, Boom, threw me a pair of Adidas. I wasn't making money like that then, so getting a pair of Adidas from somebody, friend of yours, and you could sport them, that was cool.
In the early 80s, Mr. Wave was well on his way to becoming one of the most innovative dancers in hip-hop. In 1983, he was introduced to Kid Nice, a member of the New York City b-boy group, the New York City Breakers. Kid Nice instantly fell in love with his unique and innovative dance style. He was so impressed that he suggested he audition for the New York City Breakers.
I decided I wanted to put together a crew, an all-star crew, made up of the best dancers that I could find. And I knew Little Lep, and he joined with me to help find these different powerful dancers. So he helped me find Flip Rock. He knew Flip Rock already. I wanted Lep down. He was one of the best head spin dancers around. We got the best of the New York of Floor Masters, which was Chino Lopez was Action, Noel Manguel, Kid Nice, Fist Glide, Matthew Caban.
I get a phone call from Michael Holman in my house. He offered me to come down to some studio 21 and 21st Street, somehow, I don't remember the name. I went down and I went off. Straight up, they were like, yo, he's crazy. This dude is out, it's not crazy, it's just I was good.
My name is Mr. Wade.
I never forget the day he walked in, man. It was wild. He came down to the audition. I don't even think he danced. Did a few moves for Michael Holman in the hallway, and then came into the studio and walked up to us, That's the realness of it. His style was a spontaneous style. It was a collaboration of combinations of popping, ticking, waving, and you wouldn't know what he'll do. It was really scary to poppers, because you got a guy doing the tut, you know what I mean, and you got Wave doing the wave, the ticket, and the tut at the same time.
One day I went down to Delancey Street and I met Kid Nice. And we were in there, down there at Deals, getting some Shirlings, and he invited me to an audition. And I auditioned with a lot of the other underground dancers, because at that time we had not reached that plateau. And I was asked to become a member of the New York City Breakers. And it still had not hit me yet that that's what I wanted to do. When I came out and heard that crowd respond that way, and I was able to forget and see everyone but no one, then I knew that this was something that I could do and I wanted to do it. And I just felt, it felt good. The money never mattered. The entitlement never mattered.
It wouldn't be long before the notoriety of the New York City Breakers would expand beyond the Bronx in the city of New York. The group began to receive numerous offers to perform all over the United States and around the world, including Germany, Spain, Italy, Japan, Trinidad, London, and Sweden. In 1985, their world tour concluded with a return to the States and an invitation to perform at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Inaugural Gala. From there, they were involved in various other televised performances such as Graffiti Rock, Good Morning America, Soul Train, and marketing efforts including Viewmaster.
Before we can get on a plane and get back, we were asked to shoot a movie. We didn't audition for the movie, and the movie was Beach Street. We were asked to do several movies. It was a shot into stardom that did not diminish for years. We battled in that movie. And a lot of people don't know that battle was real. And that battle was so real, the producers had to stop the movie because we were going at it. The movie does not depict how many times and how raw we came out. This was the best battle that I've ever been in and witnessed because they had to edit it to make it look even. And I'm gonna stop right there. Little Lee, he was not actually a New York City breaker. And if you look at the movie again, you see him look up and over, we wouldn't let him come out. They had to, because we were battling. Because Rocksteady and us were considered 1 and 2 in the world, because it wasn't introduced to the world, so I can honestly say in the world. And we wouldn't let Lee come out because we were really, this is the first time, again, two sides of the world, of the Bronx, we finally get in one place and it's on film. You do the math.
He knew what mesmerized the audience, and he stood to that plan, and that got him on the big screen. And that moment in B Street, when he did that, that's an unforgettable moment when he went out there and did his popping and his waving and his twist. Everybody just went nuts. And it's like a big dance number, big dance number in movie history.
I never had an issue with Rocksteady. It's that, and I hope they never had an issue with us. But when you're number 1 and number 2, you're both number 1 to yourselves. So it was more of the gangsmanship. Rocksteady are very professional, you know, and what they do, and I enjoy seeing their careers blossom. And I think Crazy Legs is a great guy, you know, he's still doing well, you know. But you don't give props to a giant, and the New York City Breakers were giants. There's a merger there that never happened. We could have went on tour together and went around the world together. And again, that comes back to my point. You know, what's wrong with us? You know, and why haven't we taught together? For a famous battle of that type of movie in 2 movies, look at the example. Me, Shrimp, Rocksteady Crew, us, Shabba-Doo, we've never come back together to do anything. And that's my perfect example on how we're letting, and it's our fault that the real hip hop culture is disintegrating. But the best part of all that is going back home and seeing those kids and having them see us on television and see the movie and the response behind it. It was like we were that mechanism for them to feel good, for our area to feel good, for the Bronx to look good. You know, we were that mechanism. Although Beach Street was designed to show the graffiti and show all the arts, what came out of that movie, it empowered a lot of people. It empowered a lot of kids around the world to, you know, feel good about themselves.
Any private organization that gives to youngsters the opportunity to do something useful and constructive gives them a chance then of belonging, of participating, of winning the approval and approbation of their elders and of their contemporaries. Any such organization in our society today is doing a most useful and constructive thing, both for the young people and for the community in which they live.
In the 60s in New York, you had a lot of gang activity. And that gang activity was a product of the fact that New York was a multi-tribal, multi-racial, multi-ethnic gathering of peoples. There were blacks from the South and blacks from the Caribbean. You had Puerto Ricans, you had Dominicans, you had Greeks and Irish and Italians and Germans and Jews. You had all different kinds of people who would move to this city at different times in the city's history and oftentimes occupy particular neighborhoods. Obviously, there would be children and teenagers, and these teenagers would be very territorial about these neighborhoods. So by the 1960s, gang culture in New York, represented by different tribes, different races, different nationalities, was nothing new, was nothing unusual. You've got a lot of disruption, you've got a lot of gang activity, you've got a lot of poverty going on in the late 60s and early 70s in the Bronx specifically. At a certain point, these gangs, frankly led by the Ghetto Brothers, by Yellow Benji, Black Benji, and the Ghetto Brothers, these gangs had reached a tipping point in terms of the violence and chaos that they were causing.
However, the Ghetto Brothers would turn out to be the catalyst. They saw themselves as agents of change and wanted to make their neighborhood better. Food, education, safety. They wanted to stop the violence and promote the thing soon to be called hip-hop. The Ghetto Brothers would reach out to the Black Spades and then other gangs and broker a peace that would curtail crime. They would have a meeting at a school gymnasium and decide they would no longer rumble. They could travel where they wanted and wear their colors without a threat of violence.
After this peace treaty was signed by all the major gangs in the Bronx, right away the Ghetto Brothers invited all the other gang members and leaders to their parties, to their throwdowns, to their outdoor jams. And at these parties and dances, kids would be dancing to disco music. This was, early 70s, to funk and soul records, James Brown, whatever. They'd be doing the Latin hustle. They'd be doing dances. And all of a sudden, the DJ, who was the supplier of entertainment at these post-peace treaty jams, became very important because he was supplying the music. There was this sense that there was something on the horizon, something just in the distance, that if we do bring the peace, something's going to happen bigger and better than we ever thought. And they didn't know it at the time, but it was hip hop.
So the young folks who once expressed themselves through violence began to develop these throwdown parties. Rooftop jams became bigger and moved to auditoriums and clubs. Gang members were no longer battling on the streets, but now battling through dance. It was no longer about which gang could fistfight the best, but who had the best moves and which DJ could put the best music together. The dance, or b-boy, and DJ battles were born, and two of the elements of what would later be known as hip-hop was beginning to take shape. Artists such as Kool Herc and Africa Bambaataa would begin to emerge as the early pioneers of hip-hop. But the element of b-boying would emerge as the focal piece of this new underground culture.
The reason why the b-boys were spearheaded hip-hop for all the other hip-hop artists, for all the other hip-hop elements, is because the general audience who knew nothing about what was going on in the Bronx, when they saw DJs, they thought, well, what's so special about that? I know what a DJ is. They didn't get the special mixing, the scratching, the turntablism. That was kind of hard to understand. That was a bit obtuse. Graffiti, well, graffiti is, to the general audience's point of view, graffiti is kind of a vandalism. That's not something to celebrate necessarily. Rapping on a mic, well, gee, James Brown said he was brother rap back in the 70s. What's so special about that? You're not like blowing my mind saying you're a rapper. James Brown invented that term. So you're not blowing my mind there. There's nothing new there. The b-boys, spinning on their heads, spinning on their backs, doing all the things that they were doing, the swipes, the flares, the windmills. That was new. That was different.
I started out as a break dancer, so that's the first element, because before we did the thing with MCing, it was only DJs and dancers, and I was a dancer. I was in Flash's crew dancing, and then that was just the hip hop part, and the MCing part was just the evolution. So that was my thing.
The b-boy and the MC is like neck to neck in the rhythm department. A good MC would know how to ride a beat. You know how to get in and get out and know how to hold it. Different rhyme styles, And b-boys knew how to get into there, and when the beat dropped, they would you could tell it was time for either the MC to go off or the b-boy to go off.
The b-boys of the old days, and I'll give you the Crazy Legs, Fable, Mr. Wiggles, myself, Zone, it's so many of them. This guy named Zone, he still dances on the streets of Manhattan. He's had hard times. There's been plenty of times where when we were coming up that we did not have enough for ourselves, to provide for our families, and with our God-given talent, not our trained talent. See, we were blessed with something, and we realized that. So we didn't have to put a lot of tricks and gimmicks in our routines. We just had to explore and then deliver what was in us. So we were true b-boys and true rappers and everything in the sense of that game, true hip-hoppers.
And although Mr. Wave had a happy childhood, there were bumps along the way. Little did he know, his childhood struggles would be the foundation of his success.
I was a difficult child. No real focus. Hip-hop was not involved. It was just, I didn't have a father figure. There was no one there to grow me as a son. There was a stepfather there, and I had known him all my life. But I could tell, I didn't feel like, something wasn't right. Temperament wasn't right. The things that disgust him about the day-to-day life or the day-to-day activities, I thought was over the top. I didn't appreciate the way the family was being treated. And me being so small and so young, I was so angry. But I was bad. And I knew that I had to separate myself to allow my brothers and sisters to have a better life. So I asked to go away, to be put away, because there was just so much rage in me, and not able to identify why. I just needed to get out because the anger was building up, and I was just too young to defend my family, and it was such rage in the other person. So I felt if I extracted myself from the environment, it would lighten up the load. So the group home, for me, was a way out. That actual day that I got on the train with my mother, on our way down to 50th Street, that's where it was called, the group home was called Samaritan. And it was a home for drug fiends, dealers, people to avoid being in prison. And I was there for a whole different reason. I was there because I just couldn't be around my stepfather. It was easy for me to make that type of decision at my age, 14, maybe going on 15 years old. It was easy for me to make that decision because I wasn't considering myself a young man. When you struggle mentally, it's hard. So when you want to help others and defend a situation, you make choices. And we make choices in life. So it was easy for me to make that choice. If I had not left, I would have probably survived a few more years. But the rage that I had inside of me, I would have probably have been either on the streets, selling drugs or a statistic.
Wave has a side to him that's unbelievable. Wave has a temper. Now, there were times when me and Wave was hanging out where I literally had to pull Wave off of people or stop Wave from killing somebody with his hands. Wave, you know, he had the cool, calm, collected, humorous side of him, but there was another side to Wave where he didn't let anybody come in his space. He didn't let anyone try to control him. So I had to work with that to sort of calm Wave down a little bit.
I feel for every action, there's a reaction. So in my trials and tribulations and in my 1,000 mistakes, I realized that I have to change. So ultimately, if you're in a situation, you need to get yourself out of that situation. You need not to blame anyone for your situation. That's why the group home was an option for me, because it's not that gentleman's fault. It's not my mother's fault. It wasn't my brothers and sisters' fault that I was not the greatest kid, that I had no guidance mentally, although guidance was tried to be instilled in me. When we blame individuals for what we do, then we're doomed right there, right away. We have to accept what we do and take a different route. So I say anybody who's in a bad situation and don't understand how to get out of it, take one step at a time. One of the things that I've recognized over my years is that as I grew up as a child, and with all my friends and my buddies, and we roamed the streets of the Bronx, and we played outside, and we had Skelzies and drank sugar water and had fun. There were no role models. And, you know, we heard about Dr. King, Malcolm X, Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, but no one came. We saw no one. My whole life as a child, growing up, besides my stepfather, who I didn't get along with, there was no one there. And as I thought about that, and I said, what can I do? I think there are no inner city role models. And I'm not talking about foundations, organizations. I'm talking about living, breathing individuals that have come from the hood, that has come from those parks and those playgrounds. Well, I choose not to be them. I choose to be stronger, and I choose to empower the young black youth of today and tomorrow, because what we do today will affect our tomorrows.
When I used to walk through the Bronx with him, crowds, numerous crowds. And he would never tell the kids, no, I'm not gonna dance. I don't care how tired he was. If a little kid or someone asked him to dance, he would dance for them. Because he was happy that they appreciate him. You know, jealousy will always exist. And we was on the block, always having fun. And it was individuals. Of course, we didn't like them, but they knew not to move towards them because... So in the day, he was defending somebody and he tagged somebody up, beat somebody good. And I guess the kid was a little upset, of course, and that's how he retaliated. He shot but my brother caught the bullet.
So I picked the radio up and we all started to go, down the street. So it's got a hill, we tried to go down the street, but then I felt this push, like someone kicked me. So when I felt the push, I didn't stop. I kept trying to run, and I fell, So when I fell, it was my brother, it was Willie, it was 3 or 4 dudes. What they did was they picked me up and they carried me back upstairs.
At that moment, my heart stopped. It was hurting because I was just thinking, I never told him, I was like, man, what if that bullet would hit someplace else? Boom, boom, boom. And, I was just grateful.
People think hip hop is grand. They think hip hop is elegant. They're not in clear understanding, and that's why I'm gonna share this with you. They're not in clear understanding that hip hop was a monster. The culture was a beast, and it created a lot of demons. And everybody, all of my peers, everybody from the 80s have their separate story to tell. But I could tell you that there was a point that Mr. Wave was broke. He was violent, you know, so it was really hard to disconnect from the streets. I remember walking down the boulevard and I saw Run from Run DMC, that's Joey. And then he said, "How you doing, Wave?" I said, "You know what, man, I'm leaving. You know, I can't do this anymore. You know, I'm walking around with things I shouldn't be walking around with, thinking about robbing people and doing bad things to get ahead. I'm angry." So I sat on the side of my bed and I called my mother. And I said, "Mom, you know, I'm not happy. And I'm thinking about doing some bad things." And she said, she was living in Chicago. She said, "Come here." So at that moment, I felt that I was moving towards a purpose. And I packed up everything and I came to Chicago to live. And when I got here, I didn't know anyone, didn't know anything, didn't tell anybody who I was. And people asked me, "Well, how do you know, in the movies, your name was Tony Drawhorn. How did it go to Tony Wesley?" Because Tony Wesley's my birth name. So when I left, I made a clean cut. I didn't like the person, my stepfather. I needed to make change. And when you make change, it should be for real. So I wanted my son to carry my father's name. I didn't want it to end with my father. So when I got here, I left Mr. Wave there. And I went and got a job as a stock boy. And I worked hard with no education. In 2 weeks, I became a supervisor. And I've been a manager 25 years and a director. So for those who say they can't do it, of course you can if you commit to it. My mom was on that train with me, going to that group home. And I told her, "Mom, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay." And she was crying her eyes out. But she knew for me to be safe, I had to go because of me, because I wouldn't conform. I feel that hip hop has given hope and is a tool to children, young kids, middle age, all generations, because there's a lot of kids who don't have a basketball, that can't play in a gym, that don't even have a place to dance. And these kids desire something. So what is least expensive that you can do yourself and you don't have to ask anyone? It's dance.
Introducing b-boying to the general audience in New York, in the rest of the country, in the rest of the world was easy because everyone was like, "Oh my God, what is this? What is this dance that they're doing? I've got to see this. I want to go to this. I want to be part of this." And so b-boying became the lost leader or the spearheading element of hip hop. It was the way that it penetrated the imaginations of the rest of the world.
But as much as hip hop has influenced the world, it's still in a very dangerous place right now.
Maybe this next generation is not going to embrace the current state of hip hop the way it is right now. Because I find a lot of it, the current state of hip hop is misogynistic, it's very ignorant, and it's embracing some negative stereotypes.
Hip hop is headed for self-destruction, and the reason is because the first generation, or the early generation, I would say, that I'm involved in, we failed hip hop. Anytime you claim something and don't grow it, and don't nurture it, and don't support it past your belief, and don't understand that you have to inject the struggle along with the successes to your peers and then to the children of hip hop, then there's a gap there. So what we have is we have a gap in hip hop. We have what the young kids think it should be. We have culture, and then we have reality. You heard the term that there's three sides to every story. It's your side, their side, then the truth. Well, hip hop's truth hasn't been told. Hip hop, the older generation failed hip hop because they succeeded in inspiring and growing a situation, but they failed hip hop financially. They failed to grow it as a business. They failed to be true entrepreneurs. They failed to show that because we've created and God has blessed us with a talent, now how do we grow this? And then how do we, most of all important, how do we teach it? If you look into the NFL and the NBA and the hockey league, you can't go into the NFL if you don't go through school. If you don't get a proper GPA, you can't play in college. They put a cap on success. Where in the hip hop community, you have millions of kids trying to become Mr. Wave, Crazy Legs, Mr. Wiggles, and they dance their hearts out every day. And they become quite good at what they do. But there is no cap. So the benefits are that they get good. The problem is they forget about the teachings, learning, growing in school. We never taught them that there's a twofold situation here. Because we never explained the pain, they feel like if they could just dance and get good at what they're doing, they're successful. Because we never told them to be entrepreneurs and understand that if you stay in school, you can fall back on something. If you stay in school and get a decent job and stay at that job, you can love hip hop but love it second. You have to love your family first. And there are guidelines that we have to live in this society. And that's to work every day, to save your money, to pay your taxes. That will net you Social Security. That will net you at least a small cushion in life to continue to survive. Because when their work is gone and where Mr. Wave can't dance anymore and he ceased to function in a normal state, then he has to rely on what? The government. So we are not teaching our kids to understand that government is important. Working is important. My resume is my master's degree. And because 20 years ago I decided that I could go and nurture Mr. Wave and become Mr. Wave, I'd rather people walk down the street and call me Tony Wesley and Mr. Wesley. And that's what I've achieved. I don't want to be the person that talks about who started the dance first or who had the loudest crowd or you could never be involved in that group because you weren't there. I want to be the person that lets them realize if you love hip hop, then you are there. If you love it and it's in your spirit, then what can we do to harness it? And how can we grow it? So I want to be the different kind of teacher. I want to be the teacher that inspires and empowers through hip hop. What hip hop does, it allows children to feel two things. One, feel a sense of independence because they don't have to ask anybody for anything. They don't even have to ask for cardboard or a dance school to dance in. They can go right outside and be free. And the other one, of course, is freedom. It separates mind, body, and soul from travesty and devastation. It allows them to be independent, strong, and free. How do you secure it? How do you make it beneficial to you? It's one thing to go on the dance floor and practice or perform for free for someone. It's another that if you have nothing and you want to try to capitalize off of it, is to become quite good at it and get your studies in and grow yourself along with the dance. A school should be built on several different levels. One, I feel that I want to open up a school that is part non-for-profit because you have to consider all those kids that cannot afford it. Then I want to have master classes for those who know how to dance, and we don't want to release them into the world without the knowledge piece of what we've been through and what we've had to endure to get to this point, and to help those in the non-for-profit sector of this in the same building to get them to that point.
Maybe taking it back to schools and teaching people the ethics, the original ethics of hip hop, which is a lot of respect. Respect is probably the biggest word ever in hip hop. Maybe dance will be the saving grace. Maybe having a school is going to be the best, most positive thing that we can do. Maybe out of the 4 elements, it was supposed to be ignored. It was supposed to not make billions of dollars. Maybe that's the thing that's going to come back to teaching the next generation. Being a b-boy, a b-girl, or a dancer, maybe that's it. So Mr. Wave may be on the next level of the best idea, which is to take the dance and make it part of our experience as a culture and an education.
Tony's current career as a hospital director, he's extremely successful because he's able to inspire people, similar to the way he does when he's dancing in his other persona. He's able to inspire people by looking at their talents and telling them what it is they can do to improve themselves. When I met him, he was not Mr. Wave. He was Tony Wesley, and so that's who I know, and that is who I direct most of my challenges to. When I talk to him, when I'm addressing him, that's who I address. That does not mean that I don't respect or have a great appreciation for his other persona. I really do. It's his hard ethic, his hard work ethic, Tony's hard work ethic, that made Mr. Wave what he was and made him what he is right now.
The thing that I appreciate most of all is that I've actually changed. Without changing in attitude and in stature, I'm a lot calmer now. But I think a lot, and I realize that I've made a lot of mistakes. So then I had to think to myself, well, what's the bridge? How did I achieve what I've achieved? When I was coming up out of New York, out of the Bronx, I was angry, I was bitter, and I was really protecting myself. Like a porcupine or a raccoon, that's the environment we're bred into. So anything would set me off. Anything would upset me. I had to protect me and my family. In my movement out of New York City, and growing up and meeting a great woman who is my wife now, it enables me to reminisce and realize that change was necessary. I still protect those that I love most of all. I'm understanding of issues. I understand that things happen for a reason. I understand that everything is not good. So if you absorb the bad and appreciate the good, it moves you forward. Being Mr. Wave and being able to travel and make so many people happy and perform for all levels of individuals allowed me to start to gain insight. It was after I joined the workforce and met positive people and people who wanted more for their families that I truly started to change, because I wanted just as much for my family. Everything for me is a learning moment, and I try to teach and I try to create products of me. So that's the best thing I could say in my last 20 years that I've received. I didn't start to grow until I left New York City. So I've grown up, and it took a while to get here, but I've grown up. And I would say that had I known any of this when I was in the Bronx as a young kid, I would have grown up a lot sooner. Society, we give blood, sweat, and tears. And I've given a lot to this dance. I've given a lot to this culture. But what I have to offer moving forward is showing my young brothers and sisters that they could become entrepreneurs, that they can take care of themselves, and that they can enjoy all this through the dance. What I have to offer is knowledge. And not just knowledge in culture, but knowledge in what the culture means, what it stands for. What I was able to do from dancing and rapping was to absorb the individuals around me that gave me advice, that befriended me in the business that they had already manufactured fame and stardom. I was able to converse with them, ask questions, and grow from those answers. So it's not merely what you go through, because I've been through a lot. It's more of how you understand what you go through. To go from Adidas sweatsuit to a business suit is you own them both. You embrace them both. But you also have to, in between that Adidas suit, to get to that business suit, you have to stop. You have to think. You have to come up with a plan, a Bible plan. And you have to stick to your plan with all your heart. You have to buy into yourself. If you buy into you, no one can stop you. If you have to take a squeegee and a bucket of water and wash windows at $20 a storefront, you can have a business. If you want to take that $20 storefront after a month and buy you a lawnmower and start doing lawns, you can have two businesses. So it's what you want to do in life that puts you in the suit. And once you have two businesses and you want to have your third, or you want to build on your own business, you go buy you a suit. And then you're there. You have to accept the guidance that people try to give you, any person, the police officer, the teacher, your parents, your single parent, or the streets. If you can accept it and not make excuses, you could fail 1,000 times. It just takes one time where you need to realize that you have failed 1,000 times to succeed. So my success is all based on failures and succession.
Here's what I think his legacy would be if he decided to retire today. I think that he would be considered by pretty much everyone in the world to be arguably the greatest waving, popping, locking dancer that ever lived. And the reason for that is clearly his dancing puts him head and shoulders above everybody else. And his longevity, the fact that he can do this for 30 plus years, you've got to beat him on both those levels to be greater than he is.
Last question, what is Mr. Wave's legacy?
My contribution and my legacy will be to give the culture of substance of knowledge, to teach where we might have made some mistakes, to empower and grow the youth, to let them know that there is a way through hip-hop to be successful, to let them know that if there is disparity in their lives, there's a way out, but it can't simply be just hip-hop. And so I'm here to speak to those things, hopefully partner up with my peers so we can all speak to those things and allow them the autonomy to grow, the chance to nurture not just the dance, but their minds. See, hip-hop and what we've experienced is more than just being on stage, and we need to share that. So I'm by far not finished in what I need to do, and I think that my legacy is to have individuals, young kids, understand where hip-hop should be going. Hopefully take it in that direction.
Well, there you have it. A true story in hip-hop about a kid from the Bronx that, despite his mistakes, managed to go from an Adidas suit to a business suit and perform for presidents and queens. Not too bad, huh?
We are here to bring back the elements of hip-hop, and my name is Mr. Wave, and I can't be stopped.
I'm rocking with the greatest. Selected Boogie King is the way the innovator. We on the grind, you see us shine. Wanna be like us, cause we one of a kind. You see the steps we're taking, forces devastating. Undefeatable history in the making. I see Boogie Boys breaking, try to do the waving. Ricky Lakin, whack imitation. Manifestation, building a foundation with dedication for the next generation. This is true education, true education. We the living proof nation. We the living proof Nation.
Mr. Wave is a converter of souls, and I'm styling a funky way of rhyming and yo. No question, my lyrics float like a feather. Swift and smooth, superb in every word. Dynamic flavors, automatic and solid. Dope rhymes, they expand my wallet. I spread like a plague, overpower like a tidal wave is my name. I'm here to crush the claim.